Good morning, folks. I wanted to show you some new features I've added to this exit ticket formative assessments, added some new features. One of the first features I added to show today is I've added a standards menu. And this is so that as you write your tests, you could pop in the standards that each question might relate to. It takes a moment for the sidebar to pop up, but in this case, you would open up math, for instance, in this case, and maybe it's third grade, and maybe it's MP1 is the standard. You double click, and that standard pops right in for you there. We could add another standard for this one, and so forth. So that's the way that works. That's the standards menu. You would go through and add standards to questions. We could then, at a future time, analyze this data and pull in which standards, which questions are applied to which standards. We could do that with a query later on once we've added all those in there. The next phase we did is I've put this checkbox here. This is a toggle on off, and what this is going to do is allow the teacher to go ahead and push the correct answers out for students. So let's take a look here at our user sheet. I have student 10, 11, 12, and I've got my checkbox set to push to flag something as true. The next step then is to take a look at students and notice the students have taken their test, student 1, student 2, or student 10, 11, 12. They've taken their test, and now it's time for the teacher to let them know how they did. I've got the checkbox checked. Go to my utilities, and I go ahead and send out the correct answers. And when I do that, what's happening is the students now can see what they got correct and what they got incorrect. They can't really see the correct answers, but the correct answers are actually hidden back over here, so that they could see that at this point and kind of compare their answers if the teacher told them how to open up that column or if they did. But that being said, you could push that out just so they have a quick way of seeing the answers. But if the teacher then wants to hide that, we have a utility here to remove the correct answers. And then when you do that, you can no longer see the correct answers. I think I had that open on one of these students. So that removed the answers. So let's take a look real quick again. Push out the answers, send out the correct answers. Let's take a look at this student. There goes the correct answers, and remove the answers. And each student then gets the answers removed, and we lose that ability to see what's happening with that. But let's say teacher wants to push out the correct answers. So I'm going to send out the correct answers. Students can take a moment to see how they did. Generally, this column is hidden. And then the next step on this would be for the teacher to archive this. So let's take a look at the archive that the student has. Well, every time I've clicked the send out the answers, we've gotten an archive. So notice now the student actually does have on this example, and here's student 11. The student can see what they got correct and what they got incorrect. Let's come over to the archive for this student. So I think the reason student 11 had so many archives, let's go ahead and let me just delete this data out of here. And then let's go ahead and archive the student data again. So we have a function here, archive the student tests. And when I come here, we're going to get a new student test to archive over here. And actually the student tests, this is the data is actually in here. I have it blanked out, and generally that cell would be hidden. But the student can actually see their correct answer. Well, they can see what they got correct or incorrect, and I can see that with each one of my students here. So in this case, we added a new test to this student, and you can see he didn't do very well. And then this student, did pretty well on his. What that's allowing the teacher to do here, now it's time to get your student answers. When I can do that two ways. I can click this button, or I could get student answers either way. Let's run it from the menu. What that's going to do is go out and get how each student did. It's going to conditionally format that for you. Once I finish that, I could then back up my last test, and that's going to pull in that data and bring it in so I have access to it. I think we showed that in the last video. So these are some of the new scripts that I've added, get the correct answers and remove answers, and then also the sidebar information to pull out the standards. So that's the new features. It now allows you to create these tests, actually track how students do on the test. It lets the students, didn't want to close that out. Let's reopen that closed tab. It allows the students to see where they stand with their archive, and it also lets them see how they do it. Run that through one more time. I'm going to go ahead and remove the correct answers, and then the students won't see, they won't have their user sheet color-coded until the teacher wants their user sheet color-coded. So those are new features. Hope you enjoy them. Give me some feedback if you have something to add or questions about how the program works.